Right now, there's a guy in Bali ordering a steak dinner that would cost you $80 back home, except he's paying $12. And his beachfront apartment, less than what you're spending on your phone bill. Think that's crazy? Wait until you see how the expats in destination number 7 are living like millionaires on a regular salary. I'm about to show you 10 places where your $500 can unlock a lifestyle you thought was reserved for the wealthy elite. The best part? You don't need special skills, connections, or a trust fund. Let's not keep you waiting any longer. Coming in at number 10, Chiang Mai, Thailand. And let me tell you, this isn't your typical tourist trap. This ancient city has soul. Imagine walking down streets where golden temples peek out between modern coffee shops, where the smell of simmering curries mixes with fresh espresso. Your $500 here breaks down to $200 for a modern studio apartment in the trendy Niman area, $150 for food, including eating out daily, $50 for utilities and fast internet, and $100 for entertainment and extras. But here's what makes Chiang Mai magical. It's a city where tradition dances with modernity. One minute you're sipping a $3 artisanal coffee in a sleek cafe. The next you're watching monks collect their morning alms just like they've done for centuries. The food scene here? It'll ruin you for Thai food anywhere else. Forget what you know about pad Thai. Here you'll discover khao soi, the local curry noodle soup that's like a warm hug in a bowl. And the best part? The lady who makes the best khao soi in the city charges just $1.50 a bowl. She learned the recipe from her grandmother, who learned it from her grandmother. That's the kind of authenticity you can't put a price on. But what really sets Chiang Mai apart is how the city has embraced digital nomads without losing its soul. You'll find high-speed internet in centuries-old buildings and co-working spaces with temple views. One of my subscribers, Mike, moved here last year and told me something that stuck with me. In San Francisco, I was always chasing the lifestyle I wanted. In Chiang Mai, I'm just living it. Now, number 9 brings us to Penang, Malaysia. And if you're a foodie, you might want to sit down for this one. Georgetown, Penang's historic heart, isn't just a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's probably the only place in the world where you can eat Michelin-worthy street food for $2 while sitting under century-old Chinese shophouses. Your $500 monthly budget here gets you a furnished apartment with pool access, enough food to make a food critic jealous, utilities with the kind of internet speeds Silicon Valley dreams of, and still leaves you pocket money for exploring. But let me tell you why Penang is secretly one of Southeast Asia's best deals. Unlike many cheap destinations that are, let's be honest, still developing, Penang gives you first-world infrastructure at developing world prices. Why? Because Malaysia has this perfect storm of factors. British colonial influence left behind excellent infrastructure. Chinese business influence keeps things efficient. And Malay cultural influence keeps things relaxed and beautiful. Here's something most people don't know about Penang. It's actually Malaysia's medical tourism hub. We're talking about hospitals that look like 5-star hotels, with doctors trained at places like Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic. That full health checkup that would cost you $800 back home, it's $5 here. And no, that's not a typo. The best part about Penang? The diversity. In one day, you can have authentic Chinese dim sum for breakfast, Indian curry for lunch, and Malay satay for dinner, all made by families who've been perfecting these recipes for generations. One evening, you might be watching Chinese opera in the street, and the next morning, you're hearing the call to prayer mix with temple bells. Let me know in the comments, which is more important to you, beachfront living or city convenience? Because Penang's got a secret up its sleeve that I'll reveal when we talk about accommodation options. Number 8 on our list might surprise you, Tbilisi, Georgia. No, not the state. We're talking about the country where wine was invented, and where your $500 goes further than you'd ever imagine. Ever dreamed of living in a city that feels like Paris, but at 1/10 of the price? That's Tbilisi. In the historic heart of the city, surrounded by centuries-old architecture and modern cafes, your $500 gets you a renovated apartment in the charming old town. All your food, including restaurants, high-speed internet, and plenty left over for enjoying the city's incredible wine bars and cultural events. But here's what makes Tbilisi special. It's a city that's been at the crossroads of civilizations for thousands of years, and you can taste it in every bite. The local bread, khachapuri, is like nothing you've ever tried before. Imagine a boat-shaped bread filled with melted cheese, butter, and a runny egg. It's so good that Georgian Airlines actually serve it in business class. And the wine? They've been making it here for 8,000 years in giant clay pots buried underground. Your local wine shop back home probably charges $50 for a bottle of Georgian wine. Here, that same bottle costs $5. The architecture will blow your mind too. You've got these incredible wooden balconies hanging off colorful houses that look like they're straight out of a fairy tale. And get this, the government is actually giving some of these historic buildings away for free to people who promise to restore them. One of my viewers, David, bought a 200-year-old house here for the price of a used Toyota back home. Speaking of valuable information, let's talk about number 7, Medellin, Colombia, the city of eternal spring. If you've been following this channel, you know I rarely get excited about weather, but Medellin is different. Imagine a place where it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit every single day of the year. No AC needed, no heating bills, just perfect weather for outdoor living. In Medellin, your $500 stretches to a modern apartment in the upscale El Poblado area. Food, including regular restaurant meals, utilities and internet, and transportation. But the numbers don't tell the real story here. What makes Medellin magical is how the city transformed itself. 25 years ago, this was one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Today, it's winning international awards for innovation and urban planning. Take the metro system. It's not just public transportation, it's a symbol of pride. Spotlessly clean, perfectly on time, and complete with cable cars that soar over the city, connecting rich and poor neighborhoods alike. They even built outdoor escalators up the hillside communities, turning a 30-minute climb into a 5-minute ride. This is what happens when a city decides to invest in its people instead of just its buildings. And the social scene? That's where Medellin really shines. Paisas, that's what locals call themselves, might be the most welcoming people on earth. You'll get invited to family dinners within days of arriving. The nightlife is legendary, not in a wild party way, but in a dancing salsa until sunrise because the music is just that good way. One of my subscribers told me she learned more Spanish in 3 weekends of salsa dancing than in 3 years of high school classes. The food scene is exploding too. Sure, you've got your traditional Colombian spots serving bandeja paisa, a platter that'll feed you for 2 days for $7. But there's also this new wave of young chefs doing incredible things with local ingredients. Imagine eating at a restaurant that would be Michelin-starred in New York, but here your whole tasting menu costs less than an appetizer back home. But the real secret to Medellin isn't the perfect weather, the amazing food, or even the low costs. It's the sense of possibility in the air. This is a city that's still writing its story, and as an expat, you get to be part of that story. Whether you're into tech, art, food, or business, there's space here to create something new. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 6 brings us to Da Nang, Vietnam. And let me tell you, this might be Southeast Asia's best-kept secret. Picture this. You're living in a modern apartment with ocean views, spending your mornings on pristine beaches, and your evenings exploring a city that perfectly balances traditional culture with modern comfort. Your $500 budget gets you a beachside apartment, more incredible food than you can imagine, utilities, and plenty left for enjoying life. But what makes Da Nang truly unique is its perfect location. Sandwiched between the historic UNESCO town of Hoi An and the majestic Marble Mountains. It's like getting 3 cities for the price of 1. And speaking of price, let's talk about why Vietnam is so affordable right now. The country is going through exactly what China went through 20 years ago. Massive economic growth, but prices haven't caught up yet. You're essentially getting tomorrow's prices at yesterday's costs. Smart investors and expats are already calling Da Nang the next Singapore. And when you see the skyline at night, you'll understand why. The food culture here will change your life. Every morning, you'll wake up to the sound of banh mi vendors announcing their arrival. For less than $1, you're getting a sandwich that would cost $15 in any major Western city. And don't get me started on the coffee culture. Vietnam is the world's 2nd largest coffee exporter, but they keep the best beans for themselves. Try the egg coffee. It sounds weird, but trust me, it'll become your new obsession. But here's what really sets Da Nang apart. Its rapid development hasn't killed its soul. You can still see elderly ladies doing Tai Chi on the beach at sunrise, fishermen using traditional round boats, and families gathering for elaborate meals where every dish has a story. One of my viewers described it perfectly. Da Nang feels like you're getting a glimpse of the future while keeping one foot firmly planted in the past. Hey, quick pause in our countdown. I can see from the comments that many of you are getting excited about these possibilities. And you should be, but I also know that making such a big move can feel overwhelming. That's exactly why I created my free PDF guide, Getting Started with International Living. Download it for free, and who knows, maybe it will change your life. Moving on to number 5, Split, Croatia. Yes, you can live in the European Union for $500 a month and not just survive, thrive. This stunning Mediterranean coastal city with Roman architecture and crystal clear waters is proof that you don't need to go to Asia to live like royalty on a budget. Now, I know what you're thinking. Croatia? In the EU? For $500? Here's the secret. Croatia just joined the Eurozone, but prices haven't caught up to Western European levels yet. You're essentially getting French Riviera views at Eastern European prices. It's like someone took the best parts of Italy and made them affordable. Your Croatian budget might be a bit tighter than our previous locations. $300 for a studio apartment in the historic center, $120 for food, $50 for utilities and internet, and $30 for transportation. But here's why Split is worth every penny. You're literally living inside a Roman emperor's palace. That's not a metaphor. The old town of Split was built inside Diocletian's palace, a 1,700-year-old Roman complex. Imagine getting your morning coffee in a cafe that was once a Roman guard tower. The lifestyle here is what Italians call dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. Your typical day might start with buying fresh fish straight off the boats at the local market, followed by a swim in water so clear you can see the bottom 30 feet down. In the evening, you join the locals for spisha, the ritual of dressing up and sipping coffee on the Riva Promenade, while watching the sunset paint the Adriatic Sea golden. But the real advantage of Split isn't just the stunning location or the history, it's the access. You're in the EU, which means you can freely travel to 27 countries. Plus, Croatia's new digital nomad visa program makes it possible to stay long-term legally. You're getting the best of both worlds, affordable living with first-world convenience. Before we get into our top 4, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time, because what I'm about to share about our remaining locations might just change your life. Coming in at number 4 is Kotor, Montenegro. Never heard of it? That's exactly why it's such a hidden gem. Imagine waking up to views of Europe's southernmost fjord, surrounded by medieval architecture and crystal clear waters. But Kotor isn't just another pretty coastal town. It's a place where history and luxury collide in the most affordable way possible. While tourists pay hundreds per night during summer, you'll be living like nobility in a UNESCO World Heritage Site for less than your current car payment. Your $500 gets you a stone-built apartment in the historic old town, fresh seafood, and local delicacies, utilities, and plenty left for adventures. But here's the real kicker about Kotor. It's where old European money comes to play, but somehow forgot to inflate the prices. The locals have a saying here: we live like kings because we're too lazy to change anything. And it's true. Life here moves at its own pace. Every morning, fishermen still sell their catch straight from their boats. The local wine comes from vineyards so old that the Romans wrote about them. And those mega yachts in the bay, they pay premium prices while you're getting local rates. But what really makes Kotor special is what I call the princess factor. You know those Disney movies where the princess walks through charming medieval streets, past beautiful squares, and up to a castle overlooking the sea? That's literally your daily commute here. One of my subscribers, Lisa, told me she has to add an extra 20 minutes to her morning walk because she keeps stopping to take photos after living here for 2 years. Montenegro is actively courting digital nomads too, with easy visa processes and some of the lowest tax rates in Europe. It's like they looked at Monaco's playbook but forgot to add the Monaco prices. Number 3 brings us to Cuenca, Ecuador. And if you've been worried about healthcare costs or retirement planning, pay very close attention. This colonial city sits at 8,400 feet in the Andes, offering spring-like weather year-round and some of the best healthcare in South America. Your $500 here gets you a furnished apartment in the historic center, food including restaurant meals, utilities, and even healthcare coverage. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Cuenca isn't just affordable, it's a place where you can completely reinvent your life. The Spanish colonial architecture will make you feel like you've stepped back in time, but the healthcare will remind you that you're in the 21st century. We're talking about hospitals with equipment that's more modern than what you'll find in many US cities, and doctors who trained at Harvard and Johns Hopkins, but charge a fraction of US prices. A full checkup that would cost you $800 back home, $40 here, and that's not a typo. The expat community here is unlike anywhere else in South America. You've got former university professors running book clubs, retired executives teaching business skills to local entrepreneurs, and artists who came for a month and stayed for a decade. There's even a weekly expat meetup where the only rule is you have to teach someone something new. The food scene is a perfect metaphor for life in Cuenca. Incredible quality at unbelievable prices. The local market sells organic produce so fresh it was probably picked this morning. The avocados are the size of your head and cost less than a cup of coffee back home. And speaking of coffee, Ecuador produces some of the world's finest beans, but unlike Colombia or Brazil, they haven't started charging premium prices yet. But here's what really sets Cuenca apart. It's a city that forces you to rethink everything you know about developing countries. The public transportation is spotless and runs on time. The streets are clean enough to eat off of. The internet is faster than what you had in the States, and the cultural scene, between the symphony orchestra, tickets are $5. Countless art galleries and regular festivals, you'll have more culture than you can handle. If you're finding value in this information, give this video a thumbs up. It helps others find this vital information too. Number 2 brings us to Brasov, Romania. And trust me, this isn't the Romania you've seen in Hollywood movies. Nestled in the Carpathian Mountains, this medieval city is what happens when Gothic architecture meets Silicon Valley speeds, all at Eastern European prices. Think Transylvania minus the vampires, plus some of the fastest internet on the planet. Your $500 gets you a modern apartment near the historic center, food including regular restaurant meals, blazing fast internet, and enough left over for weekend skiing trips. Yes, you heard that right, skiing. Brasov is surrounded by ski resorts that look like Switzerland but cost less than a day pass at your local hill back home. But here's what makes Brasov truly special. It's the perfect blend of old and new. The city center looks like it hasn't changed since the 15th century, complete with one of the largest Gothic churches in Eastern Europe. But step inside any cafe, and you'll find tech entrepreneurs running their startups on internet speeds that make Silicon Valley jealous. Romania isn't just keeping up with the digital age, it's leading it. The food scene here will make you question everything you know about Eastern European cuisine. Sure, you've got your hearty traditional dishes that'll keep you warm during the mountain winters, but there's also this new wave of young chefs doing incredible things with local ingredients. Imagine eating at a medieval guild hall that's been converted into a fusion restaurant, where the chef combines traditional Romanian recipes with molecular gastronomy, and your bill is less than a pizza delivery back home. One of my subscribers, Alex, moved here from London and told me something interesting. In London, I was always thinking about money. In Brasov, I'm thinking about which castle to explore this weekend. Because that's another thing about Brasov. You're literally surrounded by castles. That famous Dracula's castle? It's just a day trip away. And finally, our number 1 spot. This location shocked even our most experienced travelers. It offers a combination of modern infrastructure, cultural richness, and cost savings that seem almost impossible. Make your best guess in the comments below, and I'll pin the correct answer. Number 1 on our list is Lviv, Ukraine. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let me explain why this cultural gem tops our list. In Lviv, your $500 transforms into an absolutely incredible lifestyle. A stunning apartment in a pre-war building with high ceilings and original features, regular restaurant visits to some of Eastern Europe's finest eateries, blazing fast internet, and plenty left for enjoying the city's rich cultural scene. But what makes Lviv truly special isn't just the prices, it's the soul of the place. This is a city that feels like Vienna or Krakow before they became tourist hotspots. The coffee culture here actually rivals Vienna's. Lviv's coffee tradition dates back centuries, and locals take their brew very seriously. Each cafe has its own unique roast and brewing method, passed down through generations. The architecture will leave you speechless. Walking through Lviv's UNESCO-protected Old Town is like walking through a fairy tale. Every building tells a story, from Renaissance to Baroque to Art Nouveau. And unlike other European cities, these aren't museums. People actually live and work in these architectural masterpieces. The food scene. Imagine Eastern European comfort food elevated to an art form, but at street food prices. There's this restaurant that serves traditional dumplings with 50 different fillings. Another one hidden in an old pharmacy, where they serve drinks in laboratory beakers, and a chocolate factory that would make Willy Wonka jealous. But the real magic of Lviv is its resilience and creativity. This is a city that has survived empires and conflicts, yet has kept its sense of humor and culture intact. The art scene is exploding, with galleries and street art popping up everywhere. Musicians perform in medieval courtyards. And the startup scene is thriving, with tech companies choosing Lviv for its combination of talent and affordability. And here's a question for you. If you could move abroad tomorrow, which of these cities would you choose and why? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check out my free PDF guide on getting started with international living. Link in the description. It covers everything from finding apartments to setting up your finances abroad. Thank you for watching, and remember, that dream lifestyle you've been thinking about, it's not just possible, it's probably cheaper than your current life. See you next week, where we'll dive deep into how to make money while living in these affordable paradises.